Our top story takes us to Nigeria, where 30 people have been killed by a bomb blast at a crowded market on El Beid Bridge along the border with Cameroon. Witnesses say people jumped into the river to save their lives. Army officials say 35 others were injured in the attack. Both Boko Haram and the regional branch of ISIS, known as ISWAP, are active in the area. However, no group has claimed responsibility. The violence has spread to neighboring Niger, Chad, and Cameroon, prompting a regional military coalition to fight militants. Well, the U.S. says it has no plans to withdraw troops from Iraq after a letter from a U.S. general had suggested a pullout. Speaking to reporters, U.S. Defense Secretary Mark Esper said Washington is still committed to countering ISIS in Iraq. Talking about President Donald Trump's threat to target Iran's cultural sites, Esper said the U.S. will not violate the laws of armed conflict. The chairman of the Joint Chief of Staff, General Mark Milley, called his letter referring to removing troops from Iraq a mistake. Earlier, Iraqi Prime Minister Adel Abdul Mahdi had said Baghdad and Washington should work together on a withdrawal. On to Brussels now, where NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg has said members of the alliance stand behind the U.S. in the Middle East crisis. Speaking after an emergency meeting of the bloc, Stoltenberg says Iran must refrain from further violence. He says a new conflict will be in no one's interest. The Secretary General said Iran must not acquire a nuclear weapon.
We agree Iran must never acquire a nuclear weapon. We share concern about Iran's missile tests. And we are united in condemning Iran's support for a variety of different terrorist groups.
Meanwhile, Iran says the EU's stance on the killing of Major General Soleimani is a result of the bloc's misunderstanding of the Middle East. Iran's Foreign Minister Javad Zarif said Europe is making a grave and strategic mistake. Zarif called UK Foreign Minister Dominic Raab and Germany's Heiko Maas after an EU3 statement accused Tehran of foreign military interventions. The Iranian foreign minister said the U.S. is responsible for tensions in the region, especially after killing the Iranian commander. Zarif said General Soleimani's assassination has fueled global anti-U.S. fury and worldwide rancor. He said the end of the U.S. presence in West Asia has begun. Soleimani's remains have arrived in Iran's southeastern city of Kerman for burial. Saudi Foreign Minister Prince Faisal bin Farhan said the kingdom does not want to see further rise in regional tensions. Speaking in Riyadh, he said all stakeholders should take necessary steps to prevent any provocation. He was referring to the situation created after last week's U.S. airstrike in Baghdad. The Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesman Geng Shuang, for his part, also called for the international community to help ease tensions. In a phone call with Iraq's Prime Minister Adel Abdul Mahdi, the British Foreign Minister Dominic Raab stressed the need for dialogue to get out of the crisis. In news coming out of Libya now, Khalifa Haftar's forces have claimed they've taken control of the strategic coastal city of Sirte in an operation that lasted just hours. Haftar has been waging a military offensive on the capital city Tripoli since last April. His Libyan National Army said they took over surrounding Sirte, including Al-Qardabiya Air Base, before moving towards the city center.
The High Command for the Libyan National Army officially announces the liberation and the purification of the city of Sirte from terrorism and from criminals. We have always thought of the city of Sirte, which is dear to our hearts. We have always laid military plans for it, but have always postponed these plans so that Sirte would not fall prey to the clashes.
Now, Sirte lies in the center of Libya's Mediterranean coast and had been controlled by the UN-recognized government of Libya. Well, a watchdog says Israel has approved the construction of nearly 2,000 new illegal settlements in the occupied Palestinian territories. Peace Now said nearly 800 housing units received final approvals needed for construction to begin. It said the initial approvals were given for an additional 1,150 homes. The group said 89% of the new homes will be erected in settlements that Israel may have to evacuate under a future peace agreement. Peace Now said the settlement building has vastly increased under Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and his ally, U.S. President Donald Trump. In India, police have registered a case against students attacked in Jawaharlal National University instead of those who assaulted them. On Sunday, a group linked with the ruling BJP stormed into the university, attacked students, and vandalized the institution. In the FIR, the university administration has nominated Union President Aisha Ghosh and 19 others for alleged vandalism. Meanwhile, a massive protest was held at the Gateway of India and later forcibly shifted to Azad Maidan. Police manhandled and dragged demonstrators from the gateway to clear the area. The students also held protests in Kolkata, Chennai, New Delhi, Hyderabad, and Pune against the incident. Well, journalists in Indian-occupied Kashmir are demanding an end to the 156-day-long cyber curfew in the valley. The valley's media fraternity forwarded this demand in an interactive session in the capital, Srinagar. During the session, journalists, editors, and photojournalists shared their experiences of working without the internet. They said journalists in the occupied valley are forced to work without internet even in the 21st century. On August the 5th last year, India imposed a total communications blackout in the valley after revoking its special status. Meanwhile, Muslims in Indian-occupied Kashmir are still reeling from 5-month-long illegal lockdown. Amid a curfew on phones and the internet, they are struggling to connect to the outside world. Sometimes they have to travel for hours to get internet access in the disputed region.
Braving the intense cold, two Kashmiri students, Adil and Riaz, took a grueling journey to reach remote cyber oasis Banihal. They traveled by train, by truck, and then walked in snow for several hours to get online.
You can say yourself, imagine how much I struggled just so I could board this train. It was so crowded and we weren't allowed, and there was no space to even sit in a coach.
In cut-off Kashmir, access to the internet comes at a price.
The reason why I'm here at Bunny Hill today is simple. I needed to use internet for multiple reasons, and the first thing and more important thing is to fill scholarship forms.
People say it is impossible to pay utility bills, make applications, or just send a message to family outside the stricken zone.
I found internet with great difficulty. The work that takes me half an hour to accomplish took me an entire day. If internet hadn't been banned in the Kashmir Valley, I wouldn't have wasted so much time.
Amid clampdown by the Indian government, the curfew on communication has also crippled the economy of the valley.
Pakistan has passed a bill to exchange information and criminals with countries to counter terror financing. The bill was passed by 87 to 83 votes after 4 amendments proposed by the opposition. The government says the main purpose of this law is to nominate the Interior Ministry as the focal point for such cases. South Korea has renewed its call for an inter-Korean summit in Seoul, which was promised by Pyongyang. Speaking in Seoul, President Moon Jae-in said there is a desperate need for practical ways to improve cooperation between North and South Korea. The president said dialogue between North Korea and the U.S. should also go on. Moon also criticized recent tests by the North, saying threats and displays of military power are not helpful. He invited North Korean athletes to join 2 sporting events set to take place this year. Well, the Spanish Parliament will today vote to confirm socialist leader Pedro Sanchez as Prime Minister. Sanchez requires a simple majority in the second runoff to remain Prime Minister. Sanchez lost the first confidence vote in Cortes on Sunday. He has stayed on as a caretaker premier since inconclusive elections last year. But he's now looking for another term by forming a minority coalition government with the hard-left Podemos. The Sanchez-led socialists struck a deal last week with the Catalan separatist party ERC to form a coalition government. Now, over 61,000 people have gone missing in Mexico as a result of a violent drug war with powerful cartels. Fresh data released by the government shows a surge of over 20,000 missing people in comparison to figures released in June. The head of the National Registry of Missing Persons, Carla Quintana, said about a quarter of those missing are women. Over 97% of the total have gone missing since 2006, after the government sent troops to fight drug traffickers. Officials say efforts to find the missing have so far uncovered 1,100 bodies in nearly 900 clandestine mass graves. In Peru, 16 people have been killed after a bus plowed into parked cars in the southern Arequipa region. Police said 42 others were injured in the collision. The bus was traveling from the capital Lima to Arequipa. The Transportation Supervisory Agency said the bus was traveling 106 kilometers per hour in an area where the speed limit is 90 kilometers per hour. The bus operating company acknowledged the high speed and said it will investigate the cause. Welcome back, viewers. Now, the Australian Fire Service has warned the bushfires that have wrecked the country's southeast are still very dangerous and difficult to contain. The Rural Fire Service said they are working with the traffic and meteorological departments to contain the fire. Police say 183 people have been arrested for deliberately lighting fires in New South Wales, Queensland and Victoria. British Prime Minister Boris Johnson has offered help to Australia to fight the blaze. Officials say 48 U.S. fighters are scheduled to arrive in Australia on Wednesday. The ongoing bushfires have killed 25 people and millions of animals. Almost 2,000 homes and 6 million hectares of land have been destroyed. On to China now, where the annual International Ice and Snow Festival has kicked off in the northernmost Heilongjiang province near Siberia. Visitors from around the globe have flocked to the city for the spectacular ice sculptures and snow weddings. More now about the Ice Festival and other winter events in this report.
Harbin in Heilongjiang is one of China's coldest cities, where temperatures can drop as low as 35 below zero. Braving the severe cold, the city is opening its 36th Snow Festival, featuring amazing fireworks and around 400 fun activities. The festival is a major contributor to the region's booming tourism industry.
Yeah, we really like it. Yeah, it's magnificent. The structures, yeah, the carvings, really good. We've only just arrived, but my family are all on their bikes and we've just slid down our first ice slide, which was fun. Started on the small one behind me first, didn't want to go too brave.
In northwest Shanxi province, people are preparing for the upcoming Spring Festival. In the city of Xi'an, a light show has been lighting up the night sky, along with a cultural show adding to the festive atmosphere.
I think the scene was really magnificent, really brilliant. It shows the antique style and beauty of the Sichuan area.
The Spring Festival is the time when families across the country unite to welcome the new year, falling on January 25th this year.
And the annual vibrant Blacks and Whites Carnival has taken place in the southwestern Colombian city of Pasto. The event has its origins in a mix of Andean, Amazonian, and Pacific cultural expressions.
Black and white by name, but not by nature, Colombia's Black and Whites Carnival is a ride of color with musicians, dancers, and colorful floats filling the streets.
It's a joy to bring joy to people, to not just be part of the parade, but also part of the music and making people dance. One feels happy, content, to be Ronanense and to mix with all the residents here, with tourists, and to make them happy is an immense joy.
On the Day of the Whites, artists put together a 6-hour parade featuring colorful outfits. On the Day of the Blacks, participants will paint their faces black to commemorate the liberation of slaves. Elaborate headgear and bright eye makeup is a must.
The cultural expressions of the artisans, that is the best here. Narino is a very beautiful place to visit. We are from Broyeka, and this is all spectacular. I just can't imagine all the creativity. How do they have so much talent?
Since 2009, the carnival has been on UNESCO's Intangible Cultural Heritage of Humanity list. With thousands of people taking part, it is the largest in the region.
In the United States, the South Korean automaker Hyundai has unveiled its first flying car concept at a technology fair in Las Vegas. The car maker is the first to launch its vision for electric flying cars meant to ease urban congestion. More now about the flying cars in this report.
A flying car called the SEOUL, presented at the Las Vegas Consumer Electronics Show, is an innovative leap for Hyundai. The new car, with a seating capacity for 5 people, including the pilot, is designed to fly up to 60 miles with a cruising speed of up to 180 miles per hour. In a video presented at the tech fair, the South Korean company showed off a kind of helipad. When it lands, the flying car connects with autonomous vehicles.
We can reduce travel time drastically by averting ground traffic congestion. I would like to call this new era an era of liberation from gridlock and the democratization of flight.
The business is a new partnership with Uber to develop air taxis. Hyundai will produce and deploy the flying cars, and Uber will provide airspace support services and customer interfaces.
We're not an aircraft manufacturing company, and we have no intention of becoming one. Our ecosystem model is based on collaboration with best-in-class companies like Hyundai, who will ultimately manufacture the safe, reliable, high-quality Uber air taxis that we'll deploy on our platform.
While technology firms are in a race to develop flying cars to overcome urban congestion, even so, significant technological and regulatory obstacles still remain to be addressed.
SpaceX has launched its third batch of 60 Starlink satellites as part of its 2020 plan to get 1,500 satellites into space. It successfully landed its Falcon 9 first-stage rocket on the drone ship stationed in the Atlantic Ocean. In May, SpaceX launched the first batch of 60 operational satellites into low Earth orbit. It plans a so-called STARLINK constellation, a network of up to 30,000 satellites in low Earth orbit to beam broadband internet globally.
And there is stage separation.
Stock markets across Asia are trading higher despite strains between Iran and the United States. Investors are reassessing the risks of the tensions as major stocks rally. The Nikkei 225 is leading the gains, trading 1.5% higher. Index heavyweight Nintendo paired earlier gains to rise nearly 1%, while SoftBank was up 1.58%, with Sony surging 3.57%. Seoul's Kospi has gained nearly 1%, led by tech and cosmetics sectors. In China, the Shanghai Composite and Hang Seng gained nearly 0.5%. Oil prices have retreated, losing more than 1%. Time now to find out what the weather is like around the world. And with that, you're all caught up. Thank you for watching this bulletin here at Indus.